What's going on, Bills Mafia? Welcome back to the channel where we talk all things Buffalo Bills, the highs, the lows, and every storyline that matters to us die-hard fans. Now, before we get into today's exclusive update, let me remind you of one thing. This team is on a mission. Every move they make this offseason, every roster adjustment, every draft pick, it's all about one goal: improvement, getting better, staying sharp, and finally getting over that hump to bring home the franchise's first ever Lombardi trophy. This team isn't just trying to compete, they're trying to dominate. So if you believe in this squad and you're locked in for the 2025 ride, do me a favor, smash that like button and hit subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on those notifications because you're not going to want to miss what we're diving into today. All right, let's jump right into it because the AFC East just got a whole lot more interesting. And yes, it involves one of our own. Buffalo's very own Amari Cooper, the seasoned wide receiver who reached an incredible milestone with the Bills late last season, is now being floated as the ideal fit for an AFC East rival, the New York Jets. Yeah, you heard that right. One of our top veteran playmakers who helped stabilize the offense in key moments last season might end up catching passes from, get this, Justin Fields in Jets green. According to ESPN's Matt Bowen, who recently published a piece outlining the ideal landing spots for 11 veteran free agents, Cooper to the Jets makes a whole lot of sense. And look, while that might seem like a head scratcher at first glance, the reasoning is pretty compelling. Let's break it down. The Jets, as of right now, are hurting at the wide receiver position. Outside of Garrett Wilson, their room is straight up underwhelming. We're talking about names like Allen Lazard, who's clearly declined, Josh Reynolds, a decent rotational guy at best, and then a group of unproven, unpolished young players like Xavier Gipson, Malachi Corley, and Arian Smith, who, by the way, has had issues with drops. In other words, there's no WR2, no reliable secondary option for a quarterback, and no one to take pressure off of. Wilson, that's where Amari Cooper comes in. Even at age 30, and even with a dip in production last year, Cooper is still one of the league's most refined route runners. He knows how to get open, he understands defensive coverages, and in a play-action system like the one the Jets are expected to run with Fields, he could be very effective, especially on deep and breaking routes and crosses. Bowen himself says Cooper could come in and fight for work. Yes, the 30-year-old is showing signs of decline on tape, but he is still a detailed route runner who can uncover. That's the kind of receiver who can make life a lot easier for a quarterback trying to regain confidence, like Justin Fields. But let's bring this back to Buffalo for a second. Now, Bills Mafia, we know Cooper's numbers weren't off the charts in 2024. Just 20 catches for 297 yards and 2 touchdowns. But let's not pretend he didn't have his moments. In fact, it was during Week 17 against the very same Jets that Cooper reached an incredible personal milestone. He crossed the 10,000 career receiving yards mark. Let me repeat that. 10,000 yards. That's a mark only 56 other players in NFL history have ever reached. And in doing so, he passed none other than Eric Moulds, one of the greatest receivers to ever wear a Bills uniform. So yeah, while Cooper's stint in Buffalo may have been short, it was historic. He also brought something else: veteran leadership. By all accounts, Cooper was a positive presence in the locker room, helping younger players like Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, and even tight end Dalton Kincaid navigate life in the NFL. So seeing a guy like that potentially suit up for the Jets? That stings a little, but here's the thing. It looks like the market just isn't materializing for Cooper right now. Despite his pedigree and history of production, teams are reluctant to pay a guy who's past 30, especially when he's coming off a year that many are calling a sign of physical decline. Remember, Cooper was once making $20 million a year. That's top-tier WR money. But this offseason, he might be lucky to land a deal worth half of that. And Buffalo, they seem content to let him walk. General Manager Brandon Beane and head coach Sean McDermott have made it clear they're building for the long term with younger, faster, and more versatile receivers. Khalil Shakir stepped up. Keon Coleman is a future star. They brought in Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel, and drafted Caden Prather, all players who can contribute in 2025 and beyond. So yes, Cooper may be a legend in the making in NFL history, but in Buffalo's eyes, the chapter may have already closed. While we're talking about familiar faces possibly heading elsewhere, let's not forget cornerback Rasul Douglas. He was a trade acquisition from Green Bay back in 2023, and initially he was phenomenal. But 2024 was a different story. Injuries, inconsistency, and a struggling pass defense saw Buffalo finish 24th in passing yards and touchdowns allowed. Now Matt Bowen says Douglas could be an ideal fit in Seattle, a team that's rebuilding their defense and looking for physical corners who can play zone. Douglas is a physical corner. He uses his 6'2" frame to challenge receivers on the perimeter and had 5 interceptions last season, including 1 pick six. Buffalo's response? Rebuilding their secondary. They brought back Tre'Davious White on Dane Jackson and drafted Maxwell Hairston and Dorian Strong, 2 promising rookies who are expected to compete immediately. That all but guarantees. Douglas won't be back, meaning another once important contributor could be suiting up out west in 2025. Honestly, it means this team is moving forward. No disrespect to Cooper or Douglas, they both had their moments. But this roster is entering a new era, and the front office is leaning into youth, versatility, and upside. Amari Cooper may still have something left in the tank. If he ends up with the Jets, it'll definitely spice up the AFC East rivalry. But let's be real, this isn't a move that scares the Bills. Josh Allen is playing MVP football. The receiving core is young and hungry. The defense is getting faster and more aggressive. And most importantly, this locker room is united in the mission to win. We need to talk about James Cook. Yes, that James Cook. The electric, dynamic, game-breaking running back who has turned into a fan favorite. And more importantly, a key cog in Buffalo's offensive engine. But as we head into the 2025 season, there's a serious cloud hanging over his future. Cook is entering the final year of his rookie contract. And while Brandon Beane has expressed optimism that a holdout won't happen, it's hard to ignore the uncertainty. Cook hasn't publicly committed to playing without a new deal. And given the current financial structure of the Bills roster, the writing might already be on the wall. Bills Mafia, let's be real, we've seen this before. Star player, rising value, cap crunch, and suddenly the team is looking for a cheaper option. It's not what we want, but it's the business of football. And now, the first real domino in that long-term outlook may have just dropped. According to a recent mock draft by Brentley Weissman of the Pro Football Network, the Bills are predicted to select none other than Penn State's Nicholas Singleton with the 30th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, essentially replacing Cook with a younger, more cost-effective weapon. Let that sink in for a second. Nicholas Singleton isn't just any college back. We're talking about a 6', 223-pound freight train with elite speed, downhill power, and soft hands out of the backfield. This kid has already notched 40 total touchdowns, racked up multiple 1,000-yard rushing seasons, and added 768 receiving yards to his resume. He checks every box you want in a bell cow back. Weissman didn't hold back in his analysis either, calling Singleton, and I quote, a hard-nosed runner who runs with power and violence, but he also has the home run speed to break long runs. He even said if Singleton had declared this past year, he might have been the second best back in the class behind Ashton Jeanty. Now that's high praise. If this prediction holds any weight, and honestly, it just might, the implications are massive. Let's connect the dots, James. Cook is looking for a contract extension. The Bills are strapped for cap space beyond 2025, and now a potential Cook successor is already being mocked to Buffalo in the first round. This isn't just speculation. This is a blueprint. This is strategic. Roster building. Remember, Cook's market value is climbing. He's proven to be one of the league's top pass-catching backs. He's a zone-run scheme dream. He's explosive in space. But the truth is, and this is hard to say, he hasn't completely separated himself as a top 5 back. Not yet. And that not yet could be the exact reason why Beane decides not to shell out the big money next offseason. It's the same model we've seen from other successful franchises. Draft your running backs. Use them efficiently. Then reload. Now let's talk Nicholas Singleton and how he'd look in a Buffalo uniform. We're talking about a back who brings a 3-down skill set. He thrives in outside zone, but isn't afraid to hit the A-gap with power. He's the kind of guy who could absolutely thrive running behind Buffalo's revamped offensive line and working in tandem with Josh Allen's play-action game. Imagine a 223-pound hammer that forces defenses to play closer to the line, opening up deeper routes for Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, and whoever else Bean brings in at WR. Imagine Singleton catching screens, leaking out into the flat, or even motioning out wide. That's the kind of modern, versatile back that fits Ken Dorsey's vision, assuming Dorsey is still here, of course. And most importantly, Singleton would come in on a rookie deal. That's crucial when you've got major salary commitments to Josh Allen, Von Miller, if he's still here, Stephon Diggs' dead cap still hanging, and all the other financial gymnastics required to fill the Super Bowl caliber roster. Now, does this mean James Cook is definitely gone in 2026? No. But the longer this extension saga drags on, the more likely it feels. And you know what? That's going to sting. Bills Mafia has grown to love what Cook brings. His versatility, his big play potential, the way he complements Allen's skill set. But sometimes tough decisions have to be made, especially when you're chasing long-term contention. If Cook balls out in 2025 and demands top-tier money, the Bills will have to make a choice. Invest heavily in a running back, or reset the clock with a talented rookie like Singleton. And let's not forget, running backs just aren't getting paid the way they used to. Teams are reluctant to hand out second contracts unless the player is absolutely elite. Cook is great, but is he 12, 15 million on per year great? That's the million-dollar question. So Bills Mafia, I've got to hear from you. Do you think Amari Cooper would make a big impact for the Jets? Should the Bills have tried harder to bring him back? And what about Rasul Douglas? Would you rather keep him in Buffalo for another year? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think. Let's get that debate going. And before you click away, if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss an update. We've got more exclusive news, film breakdowns, and insider takes coming all off season long. This is going to be a huge year for Buffalo, and we're going to cover it every step of the way. Until next time, go Bills!